Okay, hey, welcome to Old Ass Movie Reviews. I'm Scott, there's Dave, and we are taking it to 1979's Monty Python's The Life of Brian. I have seen this maybe 3 times, and
Really?
the last time I had seen it before was on VHS. So that should tell you how there was so much I forgot about this movie. So, folks, first off, welcome to the show. Dave and I are just 2 old asses who talk about old ass movies, sometimes some new movies, sometimes some not. We swear and we review a movie and we spoil it. So if you have not seen this 1979 gem of a movie, stop the tape. Yeah, that showed our age.
Stop the tape.
Stop the mimeograph or whatever and rewind, back it up, and then come back and see us. Okay. Here we are, 1979, Life of Brian, Monty Python. Anybody that's watched a Monty Python movie knows exactly what you're in for when they take on the New Testament and the life of Brian, who lived right down the manger from Jesus.
Now, I know I remember as a kid, my brother's going to see this movie and laughing. I remember my mom at the time complaining and my aunts complaining about the movie because they were forgot what kind of Baptist they were, but they spoke.
Oh, there was a lot of pearl clutching with this and many others, but
Catholics.
Oh yeah,
too. But and all these years I had always heard about it, and I don't know how old I was when I finally saw it. Maybe I'm not really sure how old I was, to be honest with you. I must have saw it soon after it came out on VHS.
Yeah.
So somebody I know must have had it. When I saw it then, I remember thinking, this is really funny. What's the problem? Because nothing, in my opinion, I don't know what religion I am. I don't know. I know which way belief system I fall, but I don't see anything sacrilegious in this movie at all.
I didn't either.
I see digs at organized religion.
Yes.
And that I think was what was pissing everybody off.
Well, it usually is. If we look, especially you and I grew up through the 80s with the satanic panic and everything was of the devil. Folks, there's no exaggeration. People were fucking crazy. There still are. But the church had a lot of issue with this, the Last Temptation of Christ, the Da Vinci Code, anything. And here's my take. If your beliefs cannot hold up to a 2-hour movie, then you don't have much strength in your beliefs. So it's like
I really liked the Last Temptation of Christ. That's another one that I heard so much about. And when I saw it, I was like, okay, so they all speak with New York accents. I don't care.
It's the case of anybody, just one person said it and they all jump on. And, people like to talk about cancel culture. It's not new. It's not new. Let's go all the way back to the disco when they were burning records and steamrolling them and stuff like that. So that was kind of different, but it's still the same thing. We had book burnings and records being burned because it's all the devil, the devil, the devil. So the church always gets upset over anything that is deviates.
And as you spoke of cancellation, there is a scene in this movie that everybody just now is seeing, the Gen Zs or Gen Y, whatever the hell they're called now, is saying that they tried to cancel John Cleese over. They literally tried to ruin the guy's career, and it lasted about a millisecond before John Cleese came out and basically said, "Kiss my ass. I don't care about you or your opinion." And everybody else went, "Yeah, neither do we. You're cool with us. We're good, John." And it's the scene when they're in the stadium and they're talking, and it's like, well, we have to fight off the Romans, and they're coming up with their plan for fighting Romans. And it's like, any man or woman is like, okay, man or woman, and we've got to fight this or that, and they're going on, man, woman. He's like, what is with you and a woman? I want to be a woman. And John Cleese's character is looking at him like, you can't be a woman. You can't. I have it. Who was it? We're gonna fight for your right to have babies, and he's like, you can't physically have a baby. And they're like,
it's symbolic.
Not even the Romans' fault, but we'll fight for your rights to have a baby. And he's like, you people are lunatics. And that's what they were trying to cancel.
Well, see, I want to talk about that scene because I saw that and it's like, wow. There was nothing offensive about that scene. taken
Not
out
at
of
all.
context, somebody might say, what the fuck is this? I saw it as, holy crap, they're arguing for trans rights right here in 1979. I'm shocked.
And I saw it also, okay, you could take it that way. I took it as they saw how crazy humanity was going to be in a few years.
It does both.
Either way, it plays in either way, it's still freaking hysterical.
It's funny.
No matter
there was
how
nothing,
you look at it.
Yeah, I mean, my God. The troupe plays damn near every character in here, man and woman, already.
You got a beard?
I
Who
love
threw
it.
that stone? She did.
I love it. It's all the women at the stoning. Yeah. Okay, so folks, let's back it up. This movie follows just this guy, Brian, who happens to exist at the same time as Jesus. And through a series of misfortune and unfortunate events, he gets a following of people who think he's the Messiah. And he ends up also being part of a resistance group, the Judean People's Front. Or no, not the Judean People's Front.
We hate those people. Okay,
anyway,
basically, real quick, Brian is born. This is how closely his life follows Jesus. He's born in the stable in the manger next door to Jesus Christ.
The wise men go to the wrong place.
That's where all his problems begin.
Yes.
And it's a funny scene.
It is. It's absolutely hilarious. What is murder? It's a bomb.
Yeah. A bomb. Bring a bomb to the child.
The creature. Yeah. God damn. This movie had me laughing out loud multiple times.
There's so many quotable moments. So many quotable moments.
There's obvious improv out the ass, and these guys are so good, and they just roll with it.
Yeah.
I think my favorite scene from this movie is the whole there's two of them, and they go together. It's anytime Pilate is on screen, and they're talking about Biggest Dickus.
That's the wife's favorite scene.
When Biggest Dickus shows up.
And goes out and tries to read. I love
Pilate. Do we have a Waja?
Do we have a Waja? Waja. Okay.
Oh my God. Yeah,
you have to understand, Pontius Pilate has the speech impediment, and they play on it. They just play on it so bad. And from what I've read and what I've heard over the years is those guys initially laughing is actually real because they never.
Oh God, I was right there with them.
They never knew was Michael Palin, right?
I think so.
I think it was Michael Palin that was playing Pontius Pilate. They never knew what he was going to say exactly. They knew kind of what he was going to do, but he would always like pop it up a little bit, or he'd change like the way he said it or the way he exaggerated a word, and everybody was just dying laughing.
Oh, it was great. It was so genuine. And the thing is, he's so brilliant. He never cracked that we saw. No. And it's like, oh my God, I would never been able to make it through that scene.
There were 2 points where Kat's like, she said, like, when he turns his back or turns his head to talk to somebody, like, I think he started laughing there. They did a cut, and she's getting really good at like catching these cuts too. And then there's another one where John Cleese as the Roman centurion, you can see him like holding back. He's doing it so freaking well, but he's holding back a laugh. And you can see that he's holding back a laugh, but it's so damn good. Well, that scene.
Folks, I will tell you this. If you've ever been anywhere where everything is supposed to be serious and there's a lot of pressure for everything to be serious, and this happens on movie sets like crazy.
Oh, yeah.
One little giggle, one fucking little tiny giggle will erupt the whole set real fast. It's contagious as hell. And everybody now for the next 15 minutes is just like these Roman soldiers trying to hold it in over everything. God, I've been, Jesus, so hard.
I remember the high school play I was in that happened. And we actually got the guy that was teaching the class and doing the director, our instructor, was getting mad because we were off, like, get a bunch of teenagers just laughing and giggling about every little thing. But after a while, he just realized that he had to let it play out, and he was just because he was an actor himself, and like he
Yeah.
did real theater and real shit. So he just sat back and he's like, "Nothing I can do about it," and just let us go through it. And then when we were done, we were cool.
You got to get it out. You got to get
I
it out.
think you and I have done that before.
Oh, dude,
I
it
purposely
happens.
try to get you to laugh. I mean,
Yeah,
I don't know if
that's
you've
pretty
ever
easy.
caught on to that.
No,
But
no. But when I did Song of Solomon, I was biting the inside of my cheeks so hard. I mean, here we are doing this gruesome exorcism scene, blood and guts everywhere, and somebody gets the giggles, and we're just. I mean, the problem was I ran sound on that movie,
right,
and anybody that's done audio, especially using movie microphones, you hear everything.
right.
So there's people who are farting and don't think anybody can hear it. I hear it, and I'm fucking laughing. So it's just
Oh
like,
God,
oh
that's
my
funny.
god, yeah.
Yes,
Anyway, back to the movie.
yes,
This
go
is
on.
classic. This is classic Monty Python. It's got tons of gags in it. It pokes fun at little stories that you'll know or little things. Um, there's it's just a fun movie, and it
Yeah.
ends on a nice musical note.
What I like about this is that it's looking at organized religion and how, and I'm not talking about your personal beliefs as a human being, folks. Everybody has those personal beliefs. I think that's between you and God, whatever God you may worship, whether it's Ganesh or name a god. I mean, the Hindus have thousands
Of
of
the
them,
thousands, go for it.
but
They all lead the same
that,
place.
that's between you and God. The problem is when man gets involved and they start making rules that
Mm-hmm.
God told them to. Um, Sometimes I honestly do believe that God came down and talked to people and said, "Hey, knock it off." Cool, fair enough. Um, but when man is not actually listening to the word of whatever they refer to as God and just making up stuff so they can make a dollar,
Mm-hmm.
that's what Monty Python was making fun of. If they were also making fun of the people that were totally insane that have religions like Jim Jones,
Mm-hmm.
America just drink Kool-Aid. Uh, Little history lesson for you there.
Yeah.
But they do it in such a hysterical way because they go down this alley. The Brian's running from the Roman soldiers. This is a funny scene, but not my favorite. I'll tell you what my favorite is in just a minute. Brian's running away from soldiers because he's done something. I forgot
Oh
what.
yes, I know where we're going. Yeah.
Chase is on to capture Brian, and he finally they're going down this alley and they stop on each street preacher, and each one's a
Oh yeah.
little bit crazier than the other. Like this one just starts out as a madman. This other
Oh, it's
one, like
nuts.
he's just covered in mud and dirt, and he's bare naked underneath that loincloth. And I did not need to see that, but it's funny. It's funny and it works. And the guy's all dressed in red who's just preaching damnation
Yeah.
and the world's coming to an end. And then they go to somebody else, and then they finally come to this one guy who's like, you've misplaced your keys and things and rumors of where you've misplaced things and where
And
things,
for the father's hiding spot have
yeah,
passed on to the son, and that what is
where
thou
he knows
hide?
where he knows he set his keys earlier, but now
It's
he
like,
cannot find it. And it's like so extreme difference between this one guy who's just
mhm.
nobody's listening to except one guy.
Yeah. Can I add something? Because
Yeah.
that reminded me of. I know I've already said my favorite scene, but I do love the Sermon on the Mount. Hey,
Oh
Big
my
Nose.
God. A fist fight breaks out at the Sermon on the Mount. That's the
That's at
funniest
the
part of
beginning of the
that whole
movie.
thing.
Yeah. And
That's at the beginning. That's pretty close
yeah,
to the very start.
it's very close to the beginning, man. And it just like, it really sets it off. It's like, oh my God, a fist fight at the Sermon on the Mount. That's what
But
lets you
but
know
it's
instantly what you're in for.
and it's great because they throughout the movie they're letting you know Brian, his life is going alongside of Jesus Christ. He's born next to him.
Mhm.
Next couple of scenes, you see him at the Sermon on the Mount listening. He's
He's
trying to
there.
learn.
Yeah.
You can't hear him because he's too far away from Jesus. And then there's another scene where he's giving money to a ex leper. And he's like, "What do you mean you're an ex leper?" He's like, "Yeah, Jesus cured me of leprosy." And he's like, "Well, good. Why don't you go get a job or something?" He's like, "Well, maybe I could get a job, but I don't want to. I just like begging or something like that." He's like, "Well, maybe if you could just turn your back." He's like, "Well, I don't want to be a leper all the time, but maybe if you could give me a limp, where it's beggable but not leprosy." And he's
There's
like,
a
wants
lot.
to bargain with his cure.
and that in itself is a statement. So
Yeah, yeah.
there's a
But
lot
it's
there.
so funny and so well done. And then when the crucifixion is happening, it's kind of along the same lines. You just kind of figure the way they have it set up is you just guess that Jesus is in the same
Yeah.
row of people being crucified. And it's just the poor Brian just I can't catch a break throughout this
He can't
entire
catch a
movie.
break. But the other guy who's like, oh, I was just kidding,
Yeah, yeah,
he had so many chances to get away. But my favorite is in the story of Christ leading up to the crucifixion. I forget who it is who steps in and grabs the cross and helps carry it all the
yeah,
way.
yeah.
I
One of the
I
guys
can't
comes out.
remember the name. And so they do that scene here
Yeah,
where this person says, "Here, I'll carry the weight for you," and he picks up the cross, and the
yeah.
guy runs. Thank you.
Guy leaves.
And so that guy who stepped in to help ends up being crucified. And it's like, message.
Randy rule of acquisition is no good deed goes unpunished.
Yeah.
Uh, they're my favorite, my big personal favorite scene, and I don't know how many people have seen the movie, but there's a scene where Brian he's been introduced to the People's Front of Judea or the Judean People's Front. They
No,
use
not that.
they take these words and wrap them around. I forgot who he even
It
belongs
goes
to.
back. You don't even know who it is anymore.
And
It's
then I
well done.
think
Well
they
played.
changed their name. Like at one point, they
They
refer to
did.
themselves as something else, and you're like, "Wait, no, I thought you guys were some." But they
I
never
would
make it clear.
I would bet that they accidentally said it wrong or something and just
Yeah,
went with it. And because it's like,
just
why? It
stuck.
works. It works perfectly.
But he's introduced, and they're like, "Well, if you really want to be part of us, you got to go do something drastic." And they give him a task, and his task is to put some graffiti on a wall that says "Romans go home."
Oh my God.
Well, he's doing it in Latin,
And then he runs into a
and
grammar Nazi.
he runs in exactly. He literally runs into a grammar Nazi in
Oh,
the
it's
form
so
of
funny.
John Cleese as the Roman centurion, and he starts telling him, "Well, what's Roman? Romanos, Romane," and he's making him put the exclamations and
Yeah.
the,
Spell
the
everything right. And
spelling everything right, putting the highlights or whatever it's called
yeah.
on the language, so you hit the vowels just right. And he's like, "What do you want them to do?" "Well, I want them to go home." "That's a command, isn't it?" "Yes, yes. What is it?" And he makes them go through all the linguistics commands.
Teaching him Latin right there.
Yeah, it's basically teaching him Latin and how to write it. And then he finally gets it right, like the one thing on the wall right. And the guy looks at him, the centurion looks at Brian and says, "Right, now you got to write this 100 times and before sunrise, or I'm going to have your balls
Or cut
chopped
your
off."
balls off.
So you cut to the morning. Brian's finishing up his 100 times on this wall, and he's got letters like 11 feet high, man. This thing
It's across the
you
whole
can't
palace.
miss it. And the one Roman legionnaire that's been guarding him all night looks up and says, "Right, don't do it again," and
Yeah.
leaves. And as the two Roman soldiers are leaving that have been guarding him all night, making him write it, a new group of Roman soldiers
Yeah.
comes walking up.
Dude
As
can't
he's
catch
got
a
the
break.
paint in his hand.
He can't catch a break, man.
This guy
Cannot catch a
can't
break.
catch a break. And that's what leads
That's the
to, I
funny
think,
bit.
the initial chase is whenever he first takes off. And that to me
Uh,
is like one of the funniest scenes because it is so out there and it is so Monty Python. It
it
is
is.
the epitome of Monty Python. Take something that seems just mundane, like
Mhm.
learning to write English or learning to write a language or some. It may be hard, but it's kind of mundane. Everybody in the Roman Empire knew how to speak Latin because you had to. Because if you
Mhm.
wanted to talk to a Roman, you had to speak Latin or whatever language they happened to be speaking at that time. Which I think was Latin. I'm going to
I do
assume it was
believe.
Latin. But the funny thing is that he's just teaching him how to do it properly. Then he makes him write it 100 times, which is just it's an insult to Romans, but the centurion doesn't care because, like you said,
And that's what makes it funny.
he's such a freaking language Nazi that
And
he's
that's
gonna
what
make him do it.
that's what makes it funny. The Monty Python troupe, they know how to take something and just exaggerate it, just
Yeah.
stretch the shit out of the mundane
Mhm.
and make it so damn funny and relatable. I
It,
just,
yeah, it becomes they make a mundane, like you said, the word mundane. They take this mundane thing and they make it even more so. And the more they're making it just this plain, ordinary thing, and the more plain it gets, the funnier it gets.
because you understand the genius of it. One of the
Yeah.
things I forgot about this movie was, I will call it divine intervention when Brian gets scooped up by aliens. I was not expecting that. I completely forgot about that. It's like,
Kat,
okay.
Kat pointed out a few years ago when we were watching this, she's like, oh my God, it just dawned on me what that spaceship was. I was like, what was a spaceship? The spaceship was the star that the three wise men were following whenever they found Jesus and Brian,
Because it was moving.
because it was still moving. And I just looked at her and said, oh
I
my God, that's
never put that
genius.
together.
And then if you go back and just watch the beginning of the movie and then fast forward to that scene, you'll see the connection. You're like, oh my gosh, that's hysterical. That is absolutely hysterical.
That's
And I
great.
think that's why they did it. I would love to talk to John Cleese and go, is that right? I think my wife's right. Is that right?
Yeah.
And he, being John Cleese, if it wasn't right, he'd probably be like, "Oh no, that's genius. Yes, that's what we definitely meant to do that."
Yeah. You could never tell with these guys. They're like wrestlers.
Exactly.
You don't know what's real or not anymore.
Real quick, I'm going to give everybody the names of
Sure,
let's see,
absolutely.
of
Oh, do we
my
want to talk about when you were talking about people trying to cancel John Cleese?
yeah,
Which good
yeah,
luck with that. I
yeah,
mean,
right. He don't
he's not
care.
going to give a shit. You can't cancel somebody who don't give a shit.
A
And then,
genius and a legend. No.
yeah, regardless of what you think of him, he's
Mhm.
funny as hell. How about the blackface as one of the wise men?
Oh my God, I forgot about that. I
I
forgot.
saw
You
that, and
know
it's like,
what?
did I
Because it was
just see
just
that? Oh my
it was
god!
just so normal. I mean,
Yeah,
it
I didn't
didn't make
catch it.
any. But they
Yeah.
are the troop. That why would you hire somebody? You're the stars. You're going to
Well,
do it.
exactly. That's just
I
it.
would
And
do
I
the
have
same
absolutely
thing.
no problem with it, but you
Yeah.
know how people react.
Mhm.
So I thought that's what you were alluding to. But yes, real quick, the cast.
No, but that's brilliant. But and here's what's funny to me is if I was in that same situation, and I had a troop of 5 guys, none of us were black. Somebody's got to put on the blackface.
Yeah.
You,
Yeah.
you got to. It's funds, it's money. Who you're going to call? Because you have to have a friend that's going to do it. That's going to
Hmm.
think it's funny, and you have to find somebody who's got the same sense of humor. Instead of all that, just do it.
Yeah.
Come
It's
hell
no
or high
different
water.
than them playing women.
Yeah, yeah.
It's
The women.
no different.
I'll come back to that in just a second. But let me go through their names real quick.
All
Um,
right.
Graham Chapman, who played Brian. They all played multiple characters throughout the movie. I'm only going to name like the ones that come to mind when I read their names.
Right.
Okay. John Cleese was the main centurion and the leader of the rebels.
Or the
One of the
Judean
rebel
People's
groups.
Front, or the Front
Yeah,
of
yeah.
People's Judea, or the Popular Judean Front. Sorry.
Popular people today in front.
We hate them.
Michael Palin played a lot of guys, but I think he was the one who started whistling at the end and singing "Look on the
Uh,
Bright Side of Life." If I remember correctly, it's Michael Palin. I could be wrong. No, Eric Idle.
I thought that was Eric Idle. Yeah.
It is Eric Idle. It is Eric Idle definitely that sings that. Michael Palin is he's the guy who's dancing around and he got cured by Jesus, one of the ex-leper. Terry Gilliam was one of the executioners and did multiple other things. He was also one of the street preachers. Eric Idle is Mr. Cheeky. He's the guy who said about execution. He's like, no, they told me they're gonna let me go. I got freedom. And the
Yeah.
guy's like, oh, freedom, yes, yeah, the guy down there. Oh, okay, go ahead. No,
Yeah.
I'm just kidding. You go ahead. Yeah, I'm getting
The whole time
crucified
he could
today.
have left. He could have left the whole time. He finally
But
does, but yeah.
yeah. Then you got Terry Jones who played Mother.
Oh
Um,
god, so good,
such a
so good. Oh my
good
god.
character. Carol Cleveland would played the woman with the blonde hair. She had the blonde
Oh
straight
yeah,
bangs with
yeah.
the gourd, and she played some other characters in there too.
Discord.
Kenneth Coley Admiral uh, Piet
Hmm.
from Empire Strikes Back. Captain Piet
Oh,
becomes the Admiral Piet. I I never knew this until just
I'll
this
be
second.
damned.
Who do you think he played?
I don't know.
He played Jesus.
I'll be
That's
damned.
what IMBD is saying. He played Jesus. Um,
How about that?
there's a bunch of other names of people that I vaguely know because I've watched Monty Python so many years, but Terry Jones did direct it, so that's pretty cool. This was one of many of their movies.
Oh yeah.
My One of my other favorite scenes in the movie is when Brian is being crucified. And it's not because he's being crucified. It's just the dark humor of getting to that point.
And it keeps going.
Then
It
his
keeps going.
people come to get him.
You think it's a rescue, but
And
they're
he
like,
thinks
no,
it's
we
the
appreciate you
rescue.
being a martyr.
We took a vote and we just here. You know, he's a good fellow. They give him a hand of applause. And then
Oh, it's so horrible.
the crack suicide squad shows up. And he thinks he's gonna get freed again, and they all commit suicide. Which those guys are based on a real group of people.
Oh, interesting.
Um, and it was an old, I forgot what legion did it, but there was a group of soldiers that when they caught people doing wrong or
Mhm.
had got the death penalty, they would put them on the front line, and they were basically their suicide squad. And they would
Yeah.
rush out. They would charge the oncoming enemy. And they'd had loincloths on and a knife.
Ah,
They would run until they were like within striking distance, stop, turn their back on the enemy, raise their knives in the air, and say, for this, I forgot what it was exactly they say, but it's something like, for this we die on your command, or something like that, so where whatever general was leading them. And they would turn and face the enemy again and all commit suicide, like right, like a Harry Carey thing, and they would just die. Because you were going to get killed anyway. If you did that, your family was taken care of, and all your sins, as far as that empire was concerned, were forgiven. Nothing was taken back on your family. So that's why these guys would do this, because they were so bad. They were bad guys who basically deserved dying from whatever happened.
right,
It wasn't
right.
like
It's
they
just
just got some guy stealing stealing a loaf of
no,
bread.
no. It's still just
But that
fucking
was based on
ridiculous.
like a true group
Yeah,
of people who would go run in. They didn't do anything. They would just commit suicide. Everybody's like, "What the hell just happened?"
it is a psychological attack.
And yeah, and they would usually really screw up oncoming soldiers because they had no
Yeah,
idea who these guys
yeah.
were. You know, oh, these guys coming out of this loincloths and knives, we can
It's
kill
like the
them.
Vikings showing
Oh,
up with heads hanging from all the ships as
yeah,
they come ashore. And it's like, oh,
exactly. 1,000 guys
surprise.
just committed suicide in front of us with no
Yeah,
problem. We should probably go. Sorry, we
yeah.
gotta
Oh,
go.
my bad, my bad.
Yeah, the war's called off. We're gonna go home now.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
win.
absolutely.
But
Crazy.
it's just such a funny movie. It's
It
if
is.
you have an irreverent look on life and death and the way things happen, it's a good movie. The best part is whenever he's up there, the girl comes over, and even he thinks the girl's still got one more.
Yes.
Nothing. She's just as brainwashed as everybody else. And
Yep.
then the guy behind him is like, "Hey, Brian, you're on the bright side of life." And Eric Idle starts singing. He's
Yep.
got the big long blonde hair. He's stuck up on the cross. Always look on the bright side of life. And I'll tell you, from the first time I heard that song until now, I can almost, even now, I can almost sing every word to that song. And it's
Oh,
been
damn.
years since I've heard it. But I remember it stuck in my head so
Mm.
hard after hearing it the first time. I'm like, that is a brilliant, brilliant song because it takes you to life. Always look on the bright side, and then goes, "Well, you're going to die anyway, so you might as well look on the bright side of death." It's like, yeah, okay, that actually makes a weird sort of sense.
Very
But
funny.
this is just solid written. It was written by all
It
the
is.
guys. It was written by
Yeah.
the main cast, and there's not a slow moment in it.
No, there
Um,
really isn't. This movie is quick. It's a
Graham
little over an
Chapman
hour and a half.
Graham Chapman was probably at his best in this movie. This movie and Yellowbeard, I think, are my two favorite things with him. I do like Holy Grail a lot. I just love
Wow.
Holy Grail.
I,
But
I
for
think that
me,
is their
Graham
best.
Chapman as Yellowbeard, whenever he comes out, like everybody looks at me, oh my God, I thought you were dead. He's like, a Yellowbeard is never more dangerous than when he's dead. And it's like, okay. But he's just perfect in this role. He is absolute. The one scene that I was not ready for, and I'm never ready for it, is when all the people are down there waiting for him. And he opens up the gate or opens up his door, and he's just
Buck
gonna
ass
take a
naked.
full frontal nudity on Graham Chapman. I'm like, I did not need to see that, and I totally forget about it every time.
Yeah, surprise.
Probably because they mentally block it. But but like these guys don't care. They just
No,
it's
that's
funny.
great.
It works.
Yeah, that's what it wouldn't have been as funny had he had underwear on.
Yeah, a loincloth. It wouldn't have been as funny
Yeah.
because then it would have been covered and everybody looking up at him.
That's where the nudity was actually required, which was interesting.
Yeah.
So
even when the tart's in bed with him.
The Welsh tart. What?
Welsh, where'd you get this Welsh tart?
I was like, Welsh
God. The stoning scene, folks, is worth it.
Oh my
I won't go through the
God.
whole stoning scene, but
It's hilarious.
I believe there was a rule that only men were allowed to do stoning, and that's where that joke comes from.
Yeah, so all the women show up and they have purchased beards from a beard vendor so they could attend the stoning. There's someone selling stones and they get, different kinds, different because, what's so funny though, they're at the Sermon on the Mount and mom is like, can we go to the stoning? They're going to be out of rocks or whatever. It's going to be too late. And she was so excited to go to the stoning and it's just so wrong. It's so funny.
Yeah. The whole movie is so wrong and so funny. You just feel so much sympathy, especially for Brian by the end of that movie.
Yeah, you really do. You really do. The poor sucker.
Poor guy.
It's a funny movie. You can't go wrong with this one.
No.
I definitely say check it out. I think that is your take as well.
Absolutely. I would say this is about as near perfect to a Monty Python movie as you can get.
It is much better than I remember because it's been so long. It's like, I think I remember liking it. And it's like, oh, I really dig this movie.
Yeah.
I laughed the whole damn time.
It is
so, folks.
Over and over watch.
It is. It is definitely one that can be revisited over and over, like all Monty Python. It just sticks with you. And if you're from our generation, you'll quote it endlessly. Yeah. So there you have it, folks. Hit the like, hit the share, hit the subscribe, and check us out next week. Thanks again for listening, and catch you then.
Cheers.